If you guys hadn't heard about this, there's this huge event happening. This is just kind of a small thing, but I came across this yesterday. If you guys hadn't heard about this, there's this huge event happening. It's called Iceland Eclipse. I'm posting the website for it. And it's in Iceland in next August, 2026. And it's like this, looks like a big kind of festival, with all kinds of like probably, tents and stages and live music and all kinds of like little side trips you can do and, artists and et cetera. And there's going to be a solar eclipse, like an epic solar eclipse apparently too. And you can see it, the total solar eclipse from right there. And you can look, they have all kinds of like tickets and I guess like Reggie Watts is going to be there.
Reggie Watts is awesome.
Bunch of people. But what I found odd about it is that there's like 6 astronauts. It says right here, meet our cosmic participants, musicians, artists, astronauts, scientists, visionary leaders, wellness guides, and more. I don't know if I've ever quite seen anything like this though, because there's a lot of like, people like doing, like almost like maybe a Burning Man kind of scene, maybe somewhat like a little bit like maybe not exactly Burning Man, but a lot of probably psychedelic stuff and artists and yoga, meditation, spirituality, all kinds of things within those areas of things, music, probably trance music, rave type music stuff. There's probably gonna be all that. And there's like these astronauts, like 6 astronauts. Dr. Jeanette Epps, I guess she was on the ISS, she claimed to be for like 200 days. I was looking at a few of the other ones. One of the guys was like on the Blue Origin thing, one of the ones that's, calling him an astronaut. But I just found it like, I don't know if I've ever quite seen an event like this. I mean, there's definitely events like this that incorporate all kinds of like, the whole like festival scene and, all the music and art and stuff. But I've never really quite seen one where it's like, there's going to be astronauts there, like 5 or 6 astronauts giving like keynote speeches. Just strange to me. I've never quite seen that blend. It makes me think like, who's really putting this thing on? Like if they're getting their astronaut dudes to go. Now I know from the perspective that space is all like legit and real. It's like, oh yeah, they got these visionary space cadets to come talk to people. Or obviously from the perspective that's a complete deception, and they're trying to kind of co-opt and try to have people that are on like the cutting edge of sort of art and music and consciousness and all that stuff, right with like the astronauts, like, and we're leading you to space. Anyways, I thought it was kind of a strange blend, but yeah, apparently these astronauts are going to be there and this like big festival. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that since I came across it.
What is it called again?
New Age astronauts.
Yeah, Iceland Eclipse 2026 it's called. They got all the info on there. Tickets are like $1,000, I think.
Cool, thanks.
$721 for just basic admission. They said it's almost sold out. I think it said there's like 3,000 or 3,500 tickets. You can pay upwards of like, I don't know, some of these were like 3,000-4,000, where you get like an RV and there's a ton of people. Like if you look at the list of all the, so I guess it's kind of like a big outdoor festival kind of thing with like, tents and stages and people giving speeches and stuff. And doing like, guided meditations or guided, sound healing and all kinds of things like that. Yeah, it just seems like a strange blend to have like astronauts be there. I've never really seen those blended. So it makes me wonder like who's putting this thing on. And
yeah, it's very interesting. I would love to hear what Dr. Epps has to say if she sees stars or not in space.
I'd like to go. Dr. Epps, have you seen stars in space? Oh yeah. I know, that's what's a trip, dude. From the perspective of those astronauts are just bald-faced lying, like they're going to be there like, I've seen the curvature, and all these people are going to be like, wow.
Right, and why would, she's getting paid. She's probably active duty as an astronaut still. If she's wearing that uniform and repping it like she is, she would have to be like active. At least that's how it works in the military. So, like they wouldn't let her do something like this unless it was approved. Which is all the more wild.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, she's the one that definitely is like repping the NASA. She's like, well, because I was trying to look them up. This one guy, Dr. Chris Bashirzen, he was just on like the Blue Origin thing. Yeah, Dr. Jeanette Epps. Yeah, I think that she's like an actual NASA, like claims that she was on the ISS for 220 days or something. Like I looked her up. So she's the one that's the most like NASA oriented. But yeah, you're right. It would have to be like approved. It's not like some like, hippie people like decided to put this festival on. We're like, oh, let's get her on board. Like it would almost have to seem like maybe they're the controllers are the ones putting it on if it's that.
Yeah.
Approved,
Yeah, because she would get reprimanded if she went to some hippie event in uniform representing NASA,
Right. She can't just pop up
do
there.
that. Yeah, she would face consequences. And especially if it was like this well documented that she's going to be there and it's such a prestigious event, she would have already been pulled off unless NASA was involved.
Yeah, so Jeanette Epps looks like she's a retired NASA astronaut, is claimed. She was on SpaceX Crew 8 that spent 235 days in space and 232 days on the ISS. So yeah, she's full blown on all of it. And then I think this other one, oh yeah, this woman,
Cyan Proctor.
Cyan Proctor, yeah, she was on the Inspiration 4 orbital space flight, claimed to be like the civilian Inspiration 4, like that SpaceX thing in 2021. So I guess she was on that thing, which is kind of Blue Origin, but like a step up from that. From Blue
Why
Origin.
didn't they? Yeah, that's interesting. Why didn't they have one of these newest christened astronauts that went up with Katy Perry? We should have the, squad appearance of them.
Yeah. I don't know if any of those are in it. Well, there's this other one. Let's see, Joan Higginbotham. She, I guess, also is a NASA astronaut. She was on the Space Shuttle Discovery, STS-116, as a mission specialist. She was the third African American woman to go into space. So I guess she's like pretty NASA, full-blown NASA astronaut. And then who's this other one? Keisha Shahaf. Look her up.
Yeah, that would be cool to go there and then set up a stand and just have a slideshow and the video of the path of totality explained by St. Pierre during this Eclipse event, Just be like, this is not Globe exclusive, in case you thought that.
Yeah, I wonder if any like people will be there that are flat Earth oriented that are gonna like question her, or like, I don't know though. A lot of the people, dude, like, just in like the spiritual kind of worlds out there, like they're still pretty Globe. I mean, not all of them. I think there's some, like in like the festival scenes and stuff. Like, I don't think there's a ton of flat Earth in that stuff. Maybe some. There's always gonna be some people, but I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're not going to be very vocal about it, because then they would get shunned from future events like this,
And just the way people get triggered by it. Yeah, it's a thing where it's just wild though, because you can have all kinds of theories on things, spiritual, vaccines, whatever. But flat Earth, it really hits people in a different way. It's such a deep. It's like the base tone of the whole thing. It's like it's just such a big piece, and it's also worldview related too. Oh, if there's like crazy pharmaceutical companies making vaccines, people are able to be like, oh, okay. Anything with the government, people will be like, oh yeah, the Federal Reserve and money and politics. Like people are willing to kind of see through a lot of those issues, corruption and different things. But the Earth itself is such a big one because people have to like what you have to consider, like the level of deception and orchestration, and
Yeah.
and then it sweeps the rug out from under you of what you think your whole life and what your whole existence is.
Yep. The implications are too strong for a lot of people to accept. The implications are so immense. That's why it's such a tough acceptance, hard pill to swallow. The fact that the majority of people just have been brainwashed to dismiss it as just low IQ people. Like I've heard people just randomly say, oh, the dumbest people is flat earthers, just in regular conversation, And so like when you look into it and it starts making sense because it's logically sound, and you're like, wait a minute, this isn't what I was told. That's the first acceptance that you have to come to. You have to accept that actually this isn't any way as stupid as they project it to be. And that's why they have to shut down and censor it. That's what they did with YouTube, because like it starts making sense, and that ruins the narrative that flat Earth is just a stupid, ignorant position.
Right. Well, yeah, that too. Yeah, exactly. If things are actually clicking in terms of rational thinking and then independent thinking, and then yeah, if that goes against the programming, then for some people they have to start to be that one that's gonna stick out. But I mean, the thing is like that people, you would think people are already used to that are already outside of the mainstream, so. But it's like flat Earth is a whole nother leap, like. I mean, if you were probably at Burning Man and you're talking about pretty much anything, people are open to it. But you start, I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying people at Burning Man are all resistant to flat Earth necessarily, but it's probably not going to be very even accepted there to some extent if you go around talking to people.
Yeah, you're probably right. Have you been to a Burning Man? Were you there last year or this year?
No, I've actually never gone. I know a lot of people who go and friends that go and they set up camps and they have an awesome time and stuff, but they love it. But I've actually never gone. No, I've never been.
Were they flat earthers?
I heard that's where all the tech billionaires go.
Yeah, I think it's gotten pretty big now, like in terms of people like that going. But I think back in the day, it wasn't quite as much the billionaire people. But what'd you say?
Yeah.
Mathew? Is it?
I was just asking if your friends that went, were they flat earthers? Are they flat earthers?
Oh, no. I mean, I've introduced it to some of them, but I don't think any of that I'm aware of that have like are actually out, thinking that it's not a globe and all that fully. But no, so I don't, not that I know of any of them that were there.
Okay. Yeah, I was just, I guess, on YouTube, and it was showing how this year's Burning Man was just completely disaster struck. Huge sandstorms, like huge storm that like created so much. I don't know. Things were destroyed, to put it short.
Yeah, Wasn't it the last 2 years got slammed? I thought last year was like that too. The year before this, like it was just like rained out and people all
Well,
got.
that's crazy. I never looked at that. Yeah.
I think it might have been the
If it
last
was
2 years.
if it was two in a row, that's crazy.
Because this last year, people didn't even like get in, right? It kind of almost got canceled, like partly.
Yeah,
I guess
pretty
that.
much. Everything was it was kind of like Flattoberfest. This is from the videos I saw of Burning Man. It was like akin to the Flattoberfest of 24 when North Carolina just got decimated with those hurricane storms. And the event where like the land that the event was supposed to be on got crushed. So everyone just like met at a hotel, and they had some land in the back of the hotel. And the hotel just agreed because everything was shut down. There was lines to the gas pumps. Like the streets were completely at a standstill with people trying to get gas, and just grocery stores being closed. We went to a what was it? One of the few places that was open was Waffle House, and they were serving like brunch, but they had a special emergency meal. So anyway, shit was just shut down, and we still made it work. Like, guy had a grill there, busted out hibachi, cooked a bunch of meals. He had food for the whole event, and Witsit was like the only presenter that continued or that stuck to his word. He made it there, presented, hung out with everybody. I don't remember any other presenters that were scheduled on there being a part of that when the whole thing kind of got scrambled.
Yeah, I heard about that, and I saw some of the video of Witsit there talking to people. You were there?
Yeah, first time because I basically became awake in 2023, and I just had been too busy to question cosmology. Honestly, I never looked into it, even though I love space stars, looking at the night sky. But I was never like I never considered it because I never looked into it. Basically,
Yeah,
so
it's
yeah,
interesting you went to that. Yeah, yeah, I heard
went
it.
to that event and it was awesome. Great experience.
Well, it's good you guys still made a go of it because I did hear about all that. Yeah, when that happened, you guys all met like behind that hotel, were able to hang out. But yeah, it was like a huge storm, right? Or like power went out everywhere. That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there was not like you would have to wait to get gas for hours. All the fuel pumps constantly. The streets were shut down. Most restaurant stores were shut down, and the hotel even lost power. And I remember them putting like him lights in the hallway. The hot water didn't work, and that was only for like one day. So it was definitely shut down. So just shout out to Witsit because he still showed up. It was great.
Yeah, like in terms of like the festival scene as well. I was gonna say, I mean, that's cool. Yeah, it's interesting. I do remember hearing about all that, and I did see some video of Witsit at that. It's cool that he was able to make it, and you guys were able to meet up. I mean, did you like feel the energy, dude? Like meeting up with other people that know the Earth's not a globe is like, it's like the definition of lit. Like the energy is so high. Did you feel that? Did you have that experience? Like just
Yeah,
being in like the etheric field with others, like in physical reality. It's like nothing I've ever experienced in a way. Like there's something unique about it.
You say the
yeah, there was
definition of lit?
there was definitely a higher vibration for sure. And when people would share their testimony, their life experience, that was a huge sign. Like it was so cool, man. Even though there was no power, we still had a grill, plenty of food, and then we still had a generator to provide power to all the you know speakers, microphones, bands were playing. It was great. Like it was a great experience because like we overcame adversity. So not only did we have the high vibration, all being on this truth kick, we were also bonded because we were overcoming the adversity. It was just pretty cool pinnacle, you know? Only thing that would have topped it is if Bone Thugs would have made an appearance and performed East 1999 live with a keyboard on drums. I saw them perform that live in San Diego one year. 2009. No, that would be the only thing that could top that if they would have showed up.
I was gonna say just on the topic before about like the festival scene and how probably flat Earth is not even really very kind of even accepted too much. I mean, I'm sure if you talk to people in those kind of, I mean, there's gonna be people who will be open-minded, and not everyone would be totally resistant. But I was just kind of saying how it's interesting how like even in today's day and age where there is so much kind of revealing and exposing of so many things, like just politics and the media and the vaccine thing, the whole COVID thing, and how people interpreted that, and having some sense that there was at least something more going on with COVID that was not exactly the way they told us, and the level of shutdown. So a lot of people have kind of turned their heads like, what is really going on, just in terms of the power structure and everything going on. But it's interesting that there's still something like the shape of the Earth, for example, that people will still be resistant to. Like you could probably walk around that festival and be like, the Earth is flat, the Earth is flat. If you're going to get people probably yelling at you, say, fuck you, probably swearing at you, you know what I mean? Like if there's still something out there, as it were, that is still, considered, what I'm saying? Like if you were at Woodstock back in 1969 being like vaccines are poison, you know what I mean? You'd probably have more resistance than you would now, for example. More people are awake to that, et cetera, compared to that. But if you went to a festival now and said flat Earth, people are going to be resistant. So, more so. It's just kind of like interesting that there's still, truths that people are still resistant to, even in kind of a scene where you would think a lot of those people are pretty open to a lot of things, I mean, even that Reggie Watts guy, I think, has talked a little bit about flat Earth, and like that guy's pretty, I bet if you brought a flat Earth to him, he'd probably be like, well, that's groovy, man. Like he'd probably be kind of chill with it. Like, I don't know him, but I doubt he's going to go all like cucking for NASA probably. So like, you know what I mean? But nonetheless, it's just, yeah, that's just my point. It's just interesting that even in a scene where a lot of people are open-minded and whatever are still, there's still something that's either too far for them or still kind of, breaking the kind of tripping the wires in terms of their resistances.
Did you say Reggie Watts?
Yeah.
Gio?
I posted one of his great works in the text
Yeah,
chat a while ago.
Okay. Oh yeah, I saw that.
Because Gio brought him up. The great Reggie Watts.
I brought it up because there's this festival called Iceland Eclipse happening next August, and there's gonna be a big solar eclipse, and it's this like huge event, like this huge outdoor event with all these like artists and musicians and all kinds of people giving talks and doing all kinds of events and stuff. And there's like astronauts. There's like 6 astronauts that are gonna be there giving like speeches, and I just thought that was a weird. Like I haven't really seen like astronauts be brought into like the festival scene in this way before. And then Reggie Watts is gonna be there, so that's why I mentioned him.
That is weird.
Yeah, like of the festy scene, like now it's like astronauts are coming to tell people about space. It's weird.
Well, isn't it required that you need an astronaut to understand space or whatever?
Well, that's what they're kind of blending. It's like the idea of like the kind of, consciousness and mind expanding and meditation and all these kinds of concepts of like the mind and the,
Call it New Age, bro.
and then blending that with like, and here's the guys to tell you about outer space.
And then they go on and they say,
New Age
imagine.
has always been kind of interested in like aliens and shit, though. At least maybe not space in general, but it's always kind of had an alien subculture.
I mean, I get why you would call it New Age. I've never really used that term. I mean, that term is associated. There is like a New Age movement, which is not what you're referring to, like this particular like that actual movement that was called that. But because when people call it New Age, it's not really New Age. It's like Old Age. Like a lot of people in those scenes are into like a lot of the old things, like things like meditations and Vipassana meditation and Eastern traditions and in some cases Christianity.
That's all New Age, bro.
Even
That's all part
aliens.
of the New Age. Yeah.
Aliens is old.
That whole idea of bringing like Eastern, I guess whatever, that's like a New Age concept or whatever.
That's not New Age though. It's Old Age. It's old stuff.
No, yes, it's
old world
not.
stuff.
It's not that. That's well, a lot of it is new, but the word New Age as a term indicates like an entire movement, kind of like starting with Helena Blavatsky and basically having very similar ideas to what you're describing in this I don't know, Eclipse party or whatever. So it's not that the word New Age is the combination of the meaning new and the combination of the meaning age. It's like a term, it's overall term to like, yeah, it's you're not the argument you're making is not.
Well,
You're not refuting what New Age is because you're not
what is New
understanding
Age?
it. Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's like a slang term.
Yeah, it's like us. Yeah, it's a group of people who believe in like meditation, yoga, all that shit. Literally, all the things that Gio described. That's literally how you describe New Age, like philosophy or like the
New Age,
paradigm.
it's like crystals and like chakras and all that stuff.
But why aren't they just people who are just into like the spiritual traditions of humanity, like all these things, chakras and Tai Chi?
Because they're not. It's not a specific. It's not. It's like specific traditions, right? It's not like you guys aren't out there spreading the gospel or talking about Allah or I don't know. Nothing else really comes to mind. But it's like specifically kind of this Eastern thing. Like that's how it's classified.
I guess New Age is like people are just bad at old stuff. Like they'll talk about aliens, but they think it's from space. They're like these beings from space, but they're not. Like
Well, yeah, there is like a blending, like in some cases of like, yeah, like a lot of these things, like aliens, space, like into this. Well, I'll read this. This is from the Wikipedia. It says New Age is a range of spiritual or religious practices and beliefs that rapidly grew in Western society during the early 1970s. Its highly eclectic and unsystematic structure makes a precise definition difficult. Although many scholars consider it a religious movement, its adherents typically see it as a spiritual or as a unification of mind, body, and spirit, and rarely use the term New Age themselves. Scholars often call it a New Age movement, although others contest this term and suggest it better be seen as a milieu or zeitgeist.
Ken calls it Western existentialism.
This one says, as a form of Western esotericism, the New Age drew heavily upon esoteric traditions such as occultism of the 18th and 19th centuries. Did you mean, wait, what you didn't say esotericism. What did you say, Western?
No, I said
existentialism.
Western. Yeah, exactly. Which
That's
is
good. Yeah.
Yeah, which is basically just a hijacking of the Eastern culture or the Eastern whatever methodology, however you want to refer to that, and it's I don't know, it's just like a bad representation of it. It's a hijacking and a bastardization of it. That's pretty much what they did, and that's kind of like what birthed a lot of this like hippie fucking movement, dude, which was completely antithetical to what they stole it from.
Well, if you're a American person and you like aren't going to be in like dogma of Christianity, wouldn't it make sense that you would still have a spiritual nature and you might look into all kinds of things from crystals to meditation to astrology to psychedelics to like, wouldn't it make sense that you would have an open mind spiritually? Like, why does it have to be people that jack something rather than just people who are just looking into wisdom traditions and then having a spiritual viewpoint that might incorporate some of those practices?
I don't think they actually took the original practice though and incorporated it. They just took a strawman version of it. I mean, this is these are Ken's terms here, mind you. I'm no expert on this. I'm just regurgitating his position on it.
Is he linking that to like the hippies of the 60s or?
Yeah, all the new agey, what he calls new age breathing meditation and all the, I don't know, he just calls it new age nonsense. He says it's all based upon Western existentialism from, philosophers, modern philosophers around that time area who were just navel gazers and didn't really understand like what a lot of the philosophers were saying over there in the Eastern cultures.
Well, a lot of people when the New Age movement like sprung up, a lot of people saw it in, like Zachariah Sitchin, the lady with the crystal skull. Like a lot of people saw it in, and it didn't matter whether they were right or wrong. They didn't care. Some of them lied, and they got in the New Age and gave it a bad name. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right. I'm sure that was going on a lot. Yeah.
I believe the term for that is Xanac.
It sounds about right.
In terms of what you were saying, I was going to respond just in terms of like the astronauts and the New Age thing. I mean, I do hear you. It is interesting. Like, I mean, when Woodstock, summer of '69, was also the year of the moon landing. So you have this sort of Woodstock and people rebelling against the Vietnam War and all that, and then the moon landing happened. And I do hear what you're saying. Like, I mean, there might be multiple layers of it, though. There could be like, I mean, you may or may not agree with the first part I'm going to say, but there could be like a genuine way in which humans in the West, let's say, that are kind of after this post-World War II kind of lockdown of the world, basically. Like you have World War I and then World War II. And so obviously the youth was like, I mean, who really even knows, I guess, what life was really like in the 16, 17, 1800s and before. But whatever is going on, like, just to where we're at now, and there was this kind of like lockdown within the culture in a certain way after World War II. And there was this kind of cookie cutter 1950s way of being. And then it seems like the powers that be were pushing it with the Vietnam and starting to pluck the actual, youth and send them off to war to fight some crazy war. So then you get like, and then mixed with all that there. So I'm just saying there could be like a genuine level in which people really are like the idea of waking up or kind of having like spiritual revelations, like, I mean, in various ways. Now, I know that there is, like you were saying, the Christian kind of, or the way you were describing it, because there's a lot of layers of Christianity too. I mean, there's like the Christian mystics, and I mean, I know people that have Christian viewpoints, but they also, do things like mystical experiences, and they might also be into, the Vedic or Buddhism, or they may have kind of multiple, but they also respect Christianity and have, gleaned wisdom from it as well. But anyways, I'm just saying, like, you have all the ancient cultures that had their actual traditions, people in India that are Buddhist or Hindu. And then you have the Christianity. Obviously in the West, Christianity has been like kind of at the forefront of, kind of obviously the kind of main religion, as it were, in the West. And then, in the 60s, you had this whole, like, obviously the kind of hippies and everything that happened. And I'm just saying there could be a genuine layer to it where it really is just people expanding their minds and looking into other views. Now I know, like, Noah, if you think Christianity is like the one and only ultimate truth, and maybe from your mind you could say, oh, well, they're all just going off the rails or being deceived into like meditations or things that you may not agree with. But from the perspective that there is wisdom and truth in things like that, in the chakras and crystals and astrology and meditation and psychedelics and, using breathing practices and Eastern traditions, in addition to gleaning wisdom from, Western and also the kind of Christianity and different religions. So, if you view it that way, like there could be like a genuine awakening, as it were, happening of people coming to and expanding their minds and spiritual selves and all that. But then I guess, I know I've been kind of long-winded, but just to close it out, I guess, but then you do have like the space thing and the going to the moon and it's like, I'm just saying, like, the new age thing could have also been like co-opted, by like Jeremy was saying, like people like Zachariah Sitchin, or maybe even these astronauts going to this festival or whatever, to kind of reinforce and to try to like blend in the globe stuff and the going to the moon and, and that they're, on the forefront of actually exploring space in the universe or whatever, and then they kind of like filter that in and kind of try to insert it as being a part of it. And the fact that people are going to believe the globe anyways, but it'd be like kind of like keeping the programming, layer of it going. So I'm just saying how much of that is like in kind of forced within it, or like kind of co-opted or gate kept, versus how much of it is like actually genuine in terms of that part of it. Sorry, I know it's long-winded, but it's just like, the connection of how like the space thing and the astronauts kind of link in with like what you're calling new age. And then a lot of these like, because
I'm not saying
yeah.
space and shit is not that's not like a necessary new age thing, right? Like being into like, I don't know, fucking yoga, meditation, chakras, astrology, that's new age. Space is separate, but I'm just like, because you're obviously, I would consider you new age, Gio. I would say you're actually kind of like a poster boy for what it is to be like a new age kind of dude or bro. And you're definitely not a glober. Like, you know what I'm saying? So I was, like, the whole globe and flat earth debate, like you could be new age and a glober and new age and a flat earther. But I was just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a new ager who's like a glober, who's like really into this international galactic federation and all that. I don't know. You've heard this
I feel
shit
like
before,
you've been
right? You've heard all
watching
this
too many
shit.
Billy Carson videos, bro.
That's what I'm saying, bro. That's all it fucking sends me, dude. I don't even watch it, bro. It just comes on my shorts. It's like, bro, get away from me. Like, I don't believe in Palladians. It's not gonna happen, bro. Like, what?
Yeah, but all these things that, if you're going to label those things as me being new age, I actually, in terms of like, I'm like shamanic in a lot of ways, like the shamanic traditions and so on, more than like, but everything I'm into that you might call new age, like I know that you were saying the term new age doesn't mean it has to be new. It's a new age movement or whatever of like the kind of, but everything that like you would call that I would be into new age is very, very old and ancient. Like shamanic practices, astrology, these things are like incredibly old and ancient. So that's just why I kind of find it funny people say new age. But if you categorized me in that way, I wouldn't really like agree with that myself, obviously. But the only time I've ever been like confronted with that is like actually like pretty much like some of the Christian folks on Discord actually is the only place in my life that people have been like pointed a finger and been like, you're new age. Now you could say it's because all my other friends and colleagues and people, I guess you could say they're already into all that astrology and, meditation and stuff to where I guess you could say, oh, well, that's why they're not pointing the finger, calling you new age, because they're also into those things too. But I'm just saying it's really only like the Christian folks that have kind of said that. But I don't know. I kind of like, I'm not going to say I resent it or whatever, but I just don't necessarily agree because, any of the like things that I'm into spiritually when it comes to those things are very, very ancient practices. So they're not new. And if I was born which I was born in 1981, and then I want to know the wisdom of, astrology, let's say. And when I say astrology, I'm not talking about like the the horoscope in the newspaper. I'm talking about the actual positions of the luminaries and their geometric alignments through history and within our own personal lives. I mean, there's a lot more than just the horoscope part of it. I mean, I think it's nature. I mean, the astrology is actually just embedded into nature. Like in my view, it's an absolute fact of how nature works. So I mean, if I want to be into, if I'm asserting that it is like an actual fact of how nature functions and it's part of the creation, why would I have to be called New Age just because I want to have that knowledge or I want to be aware of it? You know what I'm saying? In the modern era, or if I want to know how, peyote can heal on deep levels, why would I be called New Age just because I'm want to know about a plant or
Have you
the
ever done
sky?
that before? Have you ever done that before?
Yeah.
Ayahuasca or whatever?
Yep. Many, many times. Yeah.
Many times. All right. Rock on. You go like to South America or something?
Yep. Yeah. I've been to South America
Sweet.
to do plant medicine work.
Yeah, man, that's where I'm of the belief that maybe God is subjective. It's different for us all, sort of deal, Your way of doing that, I'm sure a lot of Christians would be, think that's crazy or whatever else, but it's like you're hitting the same frequencies, I guess, in your body, I think. It could be two totally different things, but just what it means to you. You know what I mean? I've always been wanting to do the ayahuasca one day, but then I'm also really scared too. But I've heard a lot of good things about it, though. When was the first time you did it, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, we could go into that, but Noah, Noah, did you have any response to what I was saying? Just real quick, I don't know if you had a response. We could go into that, but just Noah, like, I don't know if you're still at your mic, but did you understand what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
I understand you don't like identify with it, like and I'm not too sure how okay. So basically, there's a cultural movement in America where people basically kind of go back and study Eastern spiritualities and take mind altering substances and stuff. That whole culture movement is called New Age, right? And the new in the New Age is not like, or if these, I guess, ideas are new. The new in the New Age is referring directly to like the New Age of Aquarius that was a widely held belief, and I think still is a widely held belief in this cultural movement. So when people say New Age, it's not like they're saying, I guess, new idea. Like the new and New Age is not referring to new ideas. Maybe some ideas are new in the New Age, but that's not like I said, dude. The term New Age is it's not referring like the new is referring to Aquarius, not that. And then I would just say like you may not, I guess, identify as it, but I would say like from an outside perspective, like if there is a cultural movement and you kind of are like directly involved in that, I would have to like label you as a guy who's part of that, right? Like if someone said like I'm not a revolutionary, but like they're kind of like overthrowing the French government, I would, as a third party, I would still have to kind of like classify them or turn them out, right? If you kind of catch my drift in a way.
well, but what is that labeling? Okay, but if I'm born in 1981 and then I want to be, part of my awareness is being aware of, ancient shamanic practices, plant medicines, things like, ayahuasca, peyote, but also, the astrological components of nature and meditation and the Eastern wisdom and traditions, whatever it may be. Like, why, like, just because I want to have that a connection or awareness of those things or work with those practices, like who's the one that needs to call that New Age? Because I mean, there was kind of an eruption of a lot of these things. I would agree. And I mean, what's interesting? There's certain calculations that show the precession of the equinoxes, the shift from Pisces into Aquarius is actually in 2012. and there's that whole December 21st, 2012, and then after that is when Flat Earth erupted. So it is interesting, like, now that's obviously 2012 is many years after the 60s and 70s, but obviously the 60s and 70s was this huge kind of resurgence of, a lot of the music and traditions and artwork and, this like cross-cultural people being more aware of all these different traditions around the world. But I mean, why does that have to be in opposition as being called a label and pointed a finger? Like, is that from the Christian view, like the traditional Christian view that is that spirituality, that anything different than that has to be called New Age? And you know what I'm saying?
No.
Because
It comes from like, there was a cultural movement in America, and they all had a shared set of beliefs, i.e., the ones you just described. So people needed a term for this movement, right? Because there's a thing happening. We're going to call it something so that we can now start to describe it and differentiate it from other things, right? Like, I would never call someone who's Muslim New Age. So, I mean,
well,
it's
that's
not
what I'm saying. So
this
the Judeo,
thing.
but you're saying the Judeo-Christian mentalities or philosophies, those are the thing that's the not New Age, and then everything else is point the finger New Age because of the traditions.
No. Those specific things that you mentioned, like the whole chakras, yoga, meditation, astrology, and like mind-altering substances. Those are all specifically New Age. Like, if you were to say something like outside of those that is not New Age, I would say, well, that's not a New Age belief. But the things that you have described are all New Age beliefs.
Well, it's just ironic, like I keep saying, because those things, the astrology, meditation, shamanic medicines, those are actually way older than Islam or Christianity, eons older. So actually, Christianity and Islam are new. They're the New Age. I'm not trying to like really like say that to
That's
something like, you're
interesting.
the New Age. Like, I'm not trying to say like an accusational. I'm not trying to make it all dramatic. I'm just kind of stating it more like that. Actually, if you use the new and old as the actual like, in that sense, I know what you're saying, that New Age doesn't necessarily mean the things are new. Astrology is obviously not new. It's very, very old, but if you were born in 1980 and you want to study astrology, apparently people in the Christian or Muslim traditions or those Judeo-Christian, which I would say are actually the New Age philosophies, or they're newer in humanity, but I guess they point the finger and call it New Age. I mean, not only there's others that use the term New Age. There's even people who call their own thing New Age. Like they say like, oh, New Age meditation or whatever. So yeah, I mean, there's things like that too. But I mean, I'm just saying like the New Age label is it sounds like it is coming from like a default baseline that the Christianity and Islam are not the New Age, and then anything that is against that, or if you're an American studying the Eastern traditions, now all of a sudden you just have to be labeled that or put into that category. It's all good. I'm not really like heavily.
I mean, what do you want to call the cultural movement, bro? Like, they named the cultural movement off of like the most widespread idea in the movement is that, like, do you want to call it I don't know, what do you want to call it, the geolites or something? Like, we can call it whatever you want. It doesn't have to contain new or age in it. There was a cultural movement that happened in America that specifically was about like kind of like Eastern pseudo-Buddhistic and pseudo what is that religion called? Hinduistic ideals, specifically like meditation, yoga, and mind-altering substances. Like that, it's a specific movement, and people noticed it, and they gave it is it a problem with the name specifically New Age? Like, do you think is there a better alternative, or is it a problem with labeling groups? Because if it's a problem with labeling groups, then we can't know anything about anyone. Like, we can't call someone an American. We wouldn't be able to call someone a Christian. Like, they're definitely groups of people, right? And we make names for them. So, like, I don't understand where I don't understand where racism is founded in.
Well, I hear you. I guess there's a lot of layers to it. I mean, remember Terrence McKenna had that phrase, archaic revival. It's kind of an interesting use of words, archaic revival, or like ancestral revival or ancestral revolution. I don't know, different terms like that. I mean, I hear you, dude. There was definitely like a complete disconnect from plant medicines, astrology, Eastern traditions, in America specifically, in a lot of first world countries, after what happened in World War I and World War II. It was like Islam and Christianity, and I mean in India, like Buddhism, Hinduism, like there's like the handful of religions that, but specifically like in the West, obviously like the Judeo-Christian, and so that was sort of the standard. You had the church on every street corner and the Bible, and all and the legal system. You swear on the Bible, all that stuff. The way that the Christian values and everything went into like what the United States is now. But obviously they kind of took that over, or someone took that over from like the Native Americans that were just taking peyote and living on the land. So some kind of shift happened to like America being like, if that history is the case, but Native Americans taking peyote and having a spiritual experiences with the divine in that sense, and then the Christian kind of Christian mindset of like the legal system, the circumcisions to the babies, the other parts of the law, whatever that are connected to Christianity. So then now that was the sort of the standard. In the 1950s, kids were going to church on the Sunday and going to school, and that was it, kind of thing. And then there's no question in the 60s there was this huge like revival of a lot of these ancient things, like the plants, the astrology, the meditation, like you said, chakras, crystals, sound healing, meditation, even I guess like maybe you could say some of like the kind of self-help psychotherapy, healing components of it, like, realizing that, you can heal your traumas and, going through like a individual journey. And also like even like alternative medicine, obviously holistic medicine and health and organic food. And maybe even some people go the vegan route, the veganism kind of movement maybe overlaps a little bit. So I hear you, there was this huge like eruption of that in the human psyche, especially in the youth, in the 60s and 70s and beyond. And then even in the 90s, it was even more so. Like the 90s was all kinds of like, the music and all kinds of tribal music and stuff coming back in. So yeah, I don't doubt there has been like an eruption of that. I guess I don't really agree with just calling it all New Age, although I hear you. There are scholars and things that call it that. And I do hear what you're saying. Like if that is in contrast to either the Christian values or the atheist agnostic values or viewpoint, then yeah, I guess it makes sense. Someone's going to point a finger and call it that. But it just, to me, it doesn't really make sense.
Geoid age.
Well, it just doesn't make fully sense because a lot of these things are ancient, and it's like it was more like those things were isolated from us, from the youth, like the effect that the controllers had with World War I and World War II, like basically whitewashed the youth and made them like very obedient and very like unaware of the rest of the things going like all these other things, and then told them that astrology is pseudoscience and all these things are etc. So they kind of like, I would say they like took it away from us, from humanity, and then it just, people came back in connection with it. And then there is going to be that, I guess, the tension with at least some of the like mainstream kind of churchianity or Christian part of it, where they want to kind of keep everybody just going to church and listening to a book rather than being on their own individual journey of mind expansion and growth and learning and stuff. Like it seems to me the controllers don't want that. They'd rather you be not kind of exploring yourself and all that stuff. So I don't know. I know I'm being long-winded. Sorry. It's a lot of layers of it, but I mean, I do hear what you're saying, that someone wants to label that in the modern era, but
dude, I
guess
tell
if
that
somebody
this
thought
means a little bit to you. You're passionate about it. I can tell.
yeah, I mean, what
Like, I
Noah
can
would
sense
label
that
as
you have a
New
lot of
Age.
experience.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that I have been involved with for like 20, 30 years, in terms of my graduate school, communities, doing plant medicines, shamanic journeys and experiences and communities. The graduate school I went to, it is a fully accredited graduate school, like, the highest accreditation, the same as, Harvard and other schools. But at the same time, like it is very progressive in a lot of ways. And I mean, we were able to study, I mean, not trying to go on, I know I've been long-winded, sorry, but I mean, two of the individuals I went to study at that school with were doing essentially, have been involved in psychedelic therapy and archetypal astrology, specifically archetypal astrology, which is a unique form, which is not just like the horoscopes, but so I mean, being involved, obviously going to that graduate school, and then the things that Noah's saying, like meditation and all these different breath work and healing and having experiences and, etc. So yeah, I mean, I can see why Noah would potentially label me that, but I just don't really think of it as that. I don't really identify it as that, and I don't really think of like me being involved with a bunch of like new agers necessarily. I don't really see it that way. It just seems like, yeah, a lot of
In
people.
your head, you have a vision of New Age, and in his head, he's got one. You know what I mean? Like I can see that you're even just thinking about it. You're like, oh, I'm not one of those people. So it's everybody's interpretation on, because I'm sure I
Hey,
have
Gio.
a picture in my head that's different.
Hey, Gio, I'm one of those people. I'm trying to be all new agey and breathing exercise, fasting, trying to find my center. And since you've got a lot of experience with that, I was going to ask you. So I think it's about the building up your own electrical field through breathing. We all have an aura, whether you want to think about that as your spirit, your soul, whatever, your aura. And if we can control that electrical field through our heart and our lungs through breathing exercises, isn't that the root of what they're really trying to do with all of that?
I mean,
So
yeah,
like
that can be.
grounding.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah,
talking about
that's
like the energetic system in the body, and yeah, I mean
yeah.
there is like the chakras with the electric field and the spiritual connection, like that your body like emits a field connected to the actual ether, even in that idea too. If you think of it like
I
the
mean,
actual ether that we live
right.
Dude,
in, and
there's
then
something to that. Getting your bare feet and standing in the grass, it's awesome.
I'm a tree hugger now, right? So,
Dude, I
for
forgot.
real.
well,
Man,
there's
I
a
need to
lot of
do that
things that
more.
like there's like the ideas too that the body stores, like either traumas or memories or just different things in it, that can cause a blockage to the energetic system. Like either, that's why people talk about with the chakras. I mean, I don't think the chakras are like quote unquote just some new age thing. I mean, they're very real in a lot of ways, and it's
Right.
actually how the body is like aligned in terms of the actual energy centers. And but I know, yeah, some people would write it off, or I mean, even people in the mainstream medicine stuff, some of them would call that, oh, that's just
Right.
new age gobbledygook or whatever. But what I'm saying is that yes, like in terms of like the doing like breathing meditation or different practices like that, there is the idea that you can kind of like cleanse your energetic system essentially, or like remove blockages that are causing either like depression or low
Right.
energy and different things
Isn't
by
there a
kind of
way to ground your bed? Like
yeah.
Yeah.
make your bed.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got grounding sheets. I use one every night, but I also have a cord running to my wall where just you take the prongs out and just leave the ground in. You can plug it in there and you take the other wire on the other end, make sure it's the ground. And then you just wrap it around something while you're sitting at your desk and you're grounded while you're sitting there. I wear it on a
Dude,
bracelet.
I need to do that. It's all on the internet there, huh? YouTube it?
No, I just figured that out because I knew what grounding was. So I just wanted to run a wire to me. That's all.
Okay. That's the idea. So where
But
would
you
I
know what
get the
you're
piece
Gio,
of
what you're
metal?
saying about that? I'm 55 and I never even heard about chakras until the last airbender. that's that's how sheltered I was, I guess.
Yeah, well, it just seems like, I mean, in the West, like we were cut off from a lot of a lot of these
Programmed
things. Yeah, like,
programmed away from it.
oh, you can buy the grounding stuff on like Amazon,
Yep.
by the way, or there's different websites too. If you were asking that.
No, thank you.
I'm kind of sketch about
Um,
plugging anything into the actual outlet. Like I've experimented with the grounding mats that you plug into, like it's just one little prong that you put into the grounding
Yep.
part of the outlet. It's got the three, you only put it in the circular grounding one. But whenever
Mhm.
I've done that, I know that the claim is like, oh yeah, that's going right to your electrical box, going right into the ground. But dude, there was definitely some electrical coming into my body whenever I've done it that way. Like I could just pick up on that, so because yeah, I mean, it would depend on how you have your house wired, but I mean, technically that grounding wire is supposed to go to your box and right into the grounding pole in your ground. But the fact that it's intermixing with all of the other circuitry and things, and there could be maybe some debate, how that could be happening, but Anyways, but you can actually get if you don't want to plug it into your outlet, you can get an actual like rod that you put in, you run it out your window, or like literally a metal rod that goes into the ground. And that way,
That's the much better way to do it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just plug it into the ground straight up. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But all that's a lot of words to say we're building up our electrical field or our aura. If you want to get new agey or old agey. Ancient.
Yeah, like it's just because it says new age. Yeah, I don't buy that. It's all old stuff.
I mean, I like the idea that we're in like some kind of a revival, like that phrase archaic revival, or like I like that concept that maybe we are in like a very like we're in there's like the end of a cycle and we're going to shift into some new cycle. And that like the idea that there is this, the idea of even using the word awakening, like there's a spiritual awakening occurring kind of thing, which people have said over the last decades, and just in the 90s and everything that's been going on in the internet. And so, I mean, I think it's pretty cool that like, I love that like idea, and that could actually be occurring. I just, I'm not gonna say I resent it in a way, although it could be like someone would say, I resent that. Like, I don't necessarily resent it in like some dramatic way, but it just seems to me like if a bunch of things were kept from us for whatever reason by the controllers after World War I, World War II, and we just were not aware of these things, and we were kind of like culturally washed, basically, like kind of brainwashed or just like whitewashed away from it. If a bunch of the youth start reconnecting with some of these ancient things, like practices or these different meditations, whatever it may be, why does that need to be like pointed a finger and said, well, that's new age? If it's actually just something that was kept from us originally, it's actually just it is old age, but it's just something that is part of like our human heritage. And whether somebody chooses to be into it or not, it's not for everyone. Maybe somebody is into working with chakras or meditation or whatever, and other people are not. But if it's part of like the human, heritage of who we are, then just because you were born in the 1960s, 70s, 80s and are into these things, why isn't it just that you're just into them and they just are what they are, rather than having to kind of be
Because
labeled
it comes in a package, right? It all comes kind of as this like package stream of ideas or philosophy, and it is a cultural movement, and it's I don't know, it's like a force or a movement or a group of philosophies, and we need a name to call it by. And like I said, dude, we can call it whatever you want. We can call it, I don't know, the Enlightenment movement or the reawakening movement. I don't care what we call it, dude. It's just New Age
I
seems
think
to
you're
be the
right,
most
though.
popular way of categorizing this social movement, or the most popular name for this social movement.
Is flat Earth
That's
new
all.
age? Is flat Earth
I
new
think
age?
you're right, though.
No, it's not. I would say it's not. There are people there's New Age components within flat Earth, but there's also non-New Age components within flat Earth.
I was gonna say the age of Aquarius. That makes sense to me. Like I can see that being the reason. Like that makes total sense because it aligns right along with that. You know what I mean? That whole deal. But also too, New Age, I also think of like the churches that, got rid of the organs and then they started coming in with their electric guitars and whatnot. I don't know, maybe that was part of it too. Like, let's change it up a little bit. Because I know it didn't work for me. And I mean, I didn't buy it from get-go. So I was looking for something else. You know what I mean? I liked the idea of, oh, Eastern medicine. Holy shit. That's pretty genius. Use what the earth gives you. So but I don't know, man. Like when you say new age, I just don't really have a pinpoint in time or an absolute thing, like this is what it means. So it's definitely an interesting time, I guess. New age, whatever it means, I don't know. But that's
I think it means
definitely a trick of the words.
getting your body into alignment with the earth, sort of like that. The energy of the earth, something like that. Because we're so disconnected from the earth, aren't we? And in nature.
See, that makes sense to me too now. Like, yes, the earth, because the earth gives off like it's a negative charge, but they tell you it's neutral charge, but they can't something like that. But there is something to that. Like, if I took off my shoes and my socks, and I walked on the ground for like 5-10 minutes, try to do it once a day for a long time. I didn't have headaches. I slept really good. My dreams were crazy, but they weren't scary.
Do you
They're
know
very
this
vivid.
knowledge? Do you know this knowledge changes you, right? Like it's like there was a snake about 3 weeks ago, and I'd chop their heads off and bury them or something. I didn't want to kill them, so I saved them.
You
So it's
saved a
kinda
snake?
cool. Yeah, done killing things just to kill things,
You
or
kill it and eat
be
it.
scared or fear of it when there's nothing to be afraid of, really.
Well, do you
Eat
think
it
it's
raw.
wrong to? Do you think it's wrong to kill certain species though, like spiritually? Like,
Maybe, yeah,
are you just gonna go kill a dolphin and chomp it up for dinner? Like, would you? You know what I
right,
mean?
A
yeah.
dolphin.
Like, I
Well,
don't know. I'm not killing dolphins.
the first thing I thought of was fish, right?
Oh,
And
poor dolphin.
dolphins, mammal. So yeah,
That's good bait, unfortunately.
and
But
there's so
I think
much
of what
that
you were
we.
saying, like about the grounding and being connected with the earth and the magnetic field of the earth, and then the magnetic field of our bodies. That is an interesting whole thing in and of itself. But I also think of food as having a huge. That's why, like
Yeah,
other things that people would categorize as New Age is like the holistic medicine, alternative medicine, healing with herbs and plants and you know, uh, tinctures and things. I mean, I think that would be considered, burning incense and taking herbs or whatever it may be, but also
no
just the
shit.
food and nutrition. Of course, there is like the kind of it's probably going to be like a vegan part of people that are into veganism, but then there's also going to be like either like raw meat or like carnivore components. But I'm just saying food in general because like if your body is the
Yeah.
electric field of your body is connected to what you consume.
There's medicine and then there's food. And medicine is always like some sort of toxic. Um, it's like a poison that has beneficial effects if you're having to deal with poisons you've already accumulated. And then food just like strengthens you. So people kind of confuse those and like mix those two together. But like raw milk is not medicine. That's just food.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't need it. I don't need it nearly as much as what sometimes my body will try to tell me. Like I know I don't need, but it's something you just be mindful of it. You know what I mean? Exercise,
I've noticed the
I think,
opposite.
is huge in there.
It's like scary to me how much people need food. Where I just look at someone and I'm like, wow, this person needs to eat raw food for like 20 years to even have like 40% health. Like it's pretty bad.
I think that's what really matters: the quality of the food versus the poison food. Raw milk, raw butter, raw steak. No
Yep.
poisons. I solarize my water after, and some people don't think distilling is good, but I distill it and I solarize it. I even have a tuning fork I use with it.
Dude, I give my body props, bro. Like I've put it through some shit now, and for it to be, still up and running, like better than ever, and I'm, the older I get or whatever, like I don't care what anybody says. And when I started learning about like grounding and all that stuff, like I just feel better. You know what I mean?
Comes completely like in our lifetimes, like there's a huge paradigm shift that people realize the earth is not a globe. And if you were going to be interviewed, because you were involved in it for all these years, and you were going to be interviewed on like a major TV about your involvement in it, would you go on that? Would you go do that interview?
Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, what would I be afraid of? Like, why wouldn't I?
I'm saying, would you want to be public about being involved in it when it was even in its early stages? Would you want to be known as that, or on like a either like a TV interview or anything to that degree?
Sure. I mean, I'm public now about it, right? It's right up there on my YouTube channel, and I tell my friends that I went to that Flat Earth meetup with Nathan Thompson 2 days ago here in LA.
Oh, you just went to one?
Yeah, Nathan is here for the International Truth Expo. They're doing a Salton Sea observation in the next couple days. This guy Pixie and Robbie are from Australia came over. We had a meetup by the beach on Thursday or Sunday afternoon. Jonathan, the guy who filmed the Antarctica stuff, was there. So we heard his firsthand testimony about what it was like to see the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. It's pretty cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's awesome.
But yeah, this International Truth Expo, I think it's called, is not just Flat Earth, but other things. It's out in Quartzsite, Arizona next weekend, I believe.
The Truthacon?
No, it's like a truth. Yeah, what's it called? Truth Expo?
Oh, it's the Expo one?
Yeah, the International Truth Expo in Quartzsite, November
Yeah, I saw that.
8 or 9 or something.
Or I saw that it was happening, yeah. Was Wittek going to be at that, or I forget where I saw it?
Yeah, he's speaking at it.
Okay, yeah, that's what I saw.
Sorry, no, not Wittek, Nathan Thompson, sorry.
Oh, right. Well, someone had mentioned it when Wittek was in here. I forget. Wittek's not going to it, you don't know, but Nathan Thompson is.
Yeah, Nathan Thompson for sure is. I don't know about Wittek.
Well, he's not in here right now.
So what are the highlights about the meetups or about talking to Jonathan?
Yeah, it was just interesting to hear from him, to help, what it was like to fly there, what it was like being there. He talked about the flight. He talked about being awake, except for 30 hours in a row, stuff like this. The whole time he's there, he got like 7 hours of sleep because he was trying to keep all the batteries running and all the downloads running and all the cameras and all this type of stuff. And he was the guy that had the green screen thing on his pocket, if you remember that whole drama. In fact, he was wearing the shirt that he was wearing when that happened.
Chroma key.
Right.
Light blue chroma key.
Right.
Yeah, sorry.
So he told that story, talked about what it was like at the camp, talked about what the people were like. So I don't know, it's just interesting to hear his testimony. He said, "Hey, look, I'm telling you I saw the 24-hour sun, but that's just me. When I'm telling it to you, it's just hearsay." So he admitted, like, I can't prove it to you. I'll tell you what I saw, but if you're listening to me, it's just you have to trust what I'm saying or whatever, or you have to trust it. So he wasn't saying, he's still on the fence, he said. So they hired him because he's a flat earther, right? So he's like, well, I've got questions about the AAE map isn't right, but I've still got questions about how things work. That's what he said.
So Matthew, I have a follow-up question in regards to what Gia was just asking you.
Yeah.
What is your intention of going there?
Oh, I've met several of them before. I've been to 5 or 6 of these meetups. It's just interesting to talk to people. My intention for going to the meetup, you mean?
Yeah. Well, the International Truth Expo, I think. Wait, that's the one that's going to be in Arizona, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to that one. I was saying that's where Witsit. I'm sorry. Nathan Thompson was here in town because he's heading out there. He was meeting up with some people that just flew in the night before from Australia. Pixie, who runs an Australian channel or a TikTok, maybe, I forget. Anyway, so she and another friend flew over from Australia, and the three of them are heading out to this expo. I just posted the link at 20 past the hour. So
yeah, it looks like David Weiss, Andrew Kaufman, David Weiss is going to be there. Good old Mark.
Yeah. I hadn't heard about it until I was there at this meetup. Neither
I would
did
go to it,
Sasha.
but it's a little too far away.
When you go to the meetups, what do you like? Well, you met Dan the Waterman at that one too, right?
Yeah, he's been at a couple of them. Yeah, he wasn't there this week, but I met him a few times.
So you tell people like, I mean, some of the Flat Earth meetups I went to, there were a few Globers there, but I don't think.
Yeah, I wore
anyone-
my NASA shirt. I'm everybody knows I'm a Glober. They know me from Discord, so they know who I am.
Yeah,
which people that were there that you know from Discord?
Sasha, well, Nathan Thompson. Let's see.
I don't think Nathan Thompson's in Discord, is he?
Not anymore. A long time ago he was.
So you mean that guy, NBA Truth Seeker, is his name right now? You met him?
Well, I can't remember if he was there. What's his real name?
Well, you said Sasha.
Oh yeah, Sasha. She's the one that kind of runs these LA meetups usually, or kind of helps organize them.
But she's in Discord?
I believe so. I don't know her name. It's hard for me to keep track of who is in which different things.
So people either know you from your channel, or maybe a few know you from Discord. Others might know your channel enough
and
to
then
where
I've come to a few of these, so I've met people. Yeah,
right.
Kevin,
so you're going to these.
I'm just saying it's not like a room full of people. It's not like you were going to meet everyone who's on here, like in the server, like or were there like a bunch or people that you met from?
I would say about half of them I had met online before, and half of them from other meetups. And there's probably a third of the people there that I had never met before.
So your point originally, when I was saying, if would you be like interviewed on some huge thing about your involvement in this? Your answer is yes, because you already are now to some degree, like public figure, like you've got your YouTube channel with it, and at least discussing it. I mean, you might even come up in some searches if people start searching Flat Earth. It's possible, right? Like maybe, I don't know if you put the tags in your videos, but
yeah, possibly. I mean, those videos have gotten not as many views as some of my other videos, but I don't know, 30,000, 40,000, something like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so you would, because I don't know that everyone would be down to, because I mean, I guess you'd have to consider too at that point you're being interviewed. I mean, I know it sounds kind of intense, but I mean, from what I laid out, it would be that the whole world has realized the Earth isn't a globe and it is actually planar and stationary, to the point to where technically it's like you would be interviewed about how you were wrong in a way, but also not only, you know what I'm saying, from that case. Like I'm not trying to say it in that way. I'm just saying from the way I laid it out, like you'd be like that there would be like an interview because there was, this huge thing occurred, and then okay, who was actually involved in all these years, leading up to it.
Yeah. And then they would ask me, why haven't you changed your mind? The whole world has realized the Earth is flat. How come you're still a glober? And I would explain why I hadn't changed my mind.
So there's hold on a second now.
That was a good twist.
Nothing at all.
I missed it. Damn it.
No, but dude, at that point though, the entire scientific field, you're gonna go against all of science, the whole world shifting, and say it's still a globe. You're saying?
With your NASA shirt on?
Well, you were saying, yeah, with the NASA shirt on. So I went to the global meetup, or the Flat Earth meetup, with my NASA shirt on. Is what? Yes.
Okay.
But yeah, even if NASA came out and said the Earth is flat, I wouldn't believe them.
What? You believe them now that it's a globe, but you wouldn't believe them if they said it was flat?
Yeah, because they're right about it now. But if they started saying it's not a globe, then they'd be wrong. I don't believe the Earth is.
But they're lying right now.
So.
Come on.
That's flat out crazy.
What do you mean? The whole world thought the Earth was a globe before NASA existed, 1945 or whatever.
No, come on. Don't do that.
Well,
they went to the moon.
Yeah, sorry. No, you're right. 95% of the world, right?
No, not even close to that.
What?
They claimed they went to the moon.
Yeah, my point is that my reasons for thinking the Earth is a globe are not because NASA says so.
Does NASA have any influence whatsoever on your paradigm of the shape of where we live.
Their influence is that they provide additional evidence for the fact that the Earth is a globe.
Okay.
And for outer space shenanigans.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they provide images of Jupiter and Saturn up close that match what we see from the Earth with better resolution, stuff like that.
Oh, like the Saturn V rocket. Oh.
So you
proof there.
So you think, yeah. Well, so you think you have such irrevocable proof right now of the Earth being a globe that's so strong that you would stand up against NASA and tell them they were wrong? You think you have
Yes.
good a proof for the globe?
In fact, I do that already. I already do that already. The whole scientific community, well, most of the scientific community says science shows that God does not exist and everything, life comes from natural processes. And I already stand up to the whole scientific community and say, no, you're wrong. And in fact, it's not just me. It's not the whole scientific community. It's quite a bit of us believers in the sciences.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
that's
wouldn't
kind
say
of
the
more
whole-
accepted. It's a pretty accepted kind of position, though, like Christianity
Right.
and like, you know, I mean, that's like pretty much pretty mainstream. It's the world's biggest religion, and the whole. I mean, that's not like. I hear you
I
though.
don't know. Well, you'd be surprised. In some of these academic circles, certain circles, it's a very unpopular.
No, I hear you. So what is your? I mean, are we going to go here? What is your proof that's so strong that you would even go against NASA if they came out and said they were lying, they didn't go to the moon? Well, then you'd have to go up on the moon one too. If they came out and said they faked the moon landing, are you going to still think they went?
In that case, probably not. No.
Okay, that you're going to believe them. So if they come out and say the
because
Earth is flat and we faked the moon landing, you're going to be like, okay, that moon landing thing you're saying is fake is true, but the flat Earth isn't. Like you would.
Yeah, because all the evidence for the moon landing is from NASA itself.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It's every country.
Yeah, there's a
Okay,
lot of
yeah.
countries that claim that was legitimate, even
Yeah,
though
but the original
lying.
source material, the pictures and video and audio, is all from NASA. Maybe
Would you
99.5 is.
Would you believe anybody's ever been to the moon at all?
If NASA said that,
If
nobody
NASA
had?
came out and said we've never put people on the moon, what would that do for your whole trip to the moon belief system? Would you just
Oh,
think,
yeah,
wow, they're just
no,
full of shit altogether?
if
Like they
NASA
don't
came
even
out-
go to the
Yeah, if NASA came out and said they never went to the moon, and then I would believe them.
No, they said they never put man on the moon, but they brought rovers to the moon. Would you believe that? That they actually put rovers up there?
Yeah, I could believe that. Because other countries have done that too. But back to the original question. So, yeah, my
How can you see it?
reason for believing in the globe is not because of NASA.
Okay, then what if I mean, I know this is like going back to 101 if depending on how you answer this, but it's like what is your top proof of the globe? No, but it's like I mean, if you're saying that you're so confident that it's a sphere that even NASA is like not even relevant. And I know that I mean, yeah, I understand like there was ideas that it was a sphere technically before NASA was created, because NASA was created in 1958 or 57, whatever year it was. Is it 58? I think it's 58.
I don't remember.
Yeah, so they were obviously, people had globe ideas before that. But yeah, then what have you done yourself, or what data that's not from NASA do you have that is so compelling that you would even go against NASA if they came out and said they were lying about the globe?
Yeah, it's the same as it's always been, that I think that when we're looking for the best explanation for our observations, I'm going to go with the best explanation so far. So explanations for sunsets and moon phases and seasons and that kind of stuff, I think we still, the best explanation is still that the shape of the surface of the Earth is spherical.
I would actually love to recount on that in a little bit when other questions are done being asked. But
Yeah,
when
so
it comes
let me.
to,
Yeah, so let me.
no,
just finish
I'm just
that.
going to tell you what the topic
Okay.
is. I'm going to bring up
Okay.
seasons. That
Yes.
is doesn't make sense on a spinning, wobbling sphere.
Really?
Just a little
Yeah, so
ball
I bu-
tilt,
I-
a little
no,
93
listen.
million mile ball tilt, just a little deep, but just a little
Doesn't make
tilt.
sense.
So
it's
let me
pretty
just finish
simple.
Geo's question.
I hope
but
you won't embarrass yourself, Andrew.
Yeah, so here's what I will say, Andrew. I believe you that it doesn't make sense to you about how it works, but I will report to you that it does make sense to me, that it's internally consistent with our whole model, and it makes 100% sense to me. Now, back to Geo's question, even if NASA came out and refuted all this stuff, that wouldn't change the fact that there's no better explanation for me. So the globe explanation is the best explanation for all those observations, even if NASA comes out and denies it all. So unless somebody comes up with a better explanation about how all these things work on a flat Earth, I'm not changing my mind, even if NASA says that.
Okay, now let me ask you this important next question. Are you seeking truth,
Yes,
or are you seeking, quote unquote, the best explanation?
I think the best explanation leads to truth.
Well, okay, but if you're seeking
Well,
truth, couldn't something that you currently think is the best explanation not actually be the truth?
yeah, 100%. That's the whole point. But that's the only access we have to the truth is what, or that's the best that's the best access we have to the truth is, of all these different options, which one explain the phenomena best, and that's the most likely to be true.
Okay, well, most likely now there's a kind of like a subjective statistic on it.
Right.
Okay, so when you said before that you're so confident that even if NASA came out and said, "Hey, the Earth's not a globe; it's flat," that you would actually go against them. But it sounds like you would go against them, and your ammo would be that you basically have some things that, and I'm not trying to be rude here, but like are subjectively you think are the best explanations. That is enough to
Yeah.
that you would. Okay.
So subjectively, the best explanations, you ask, okay, well, what are my subjective criteria for what makes good explanations? And they'd be things like, oh, that assumes the simplest things, that has the best predictions, that works well, that you don't have to come up with a bunch of ad hoc fixes to, you could come up with a whole bunch of criteria, and philosophers of science do this all day long. But that, you see why NASA changing their mind wouldn't change my mind, because my mind is based on the best explanation, and NASA changing what they say would be an interesting fact and something I'd have to consider, but it wouldn't change the fact that the best explanation is still a globe.
Okay. Well, do you
Even
think that, but is that the best way to seek truth and acquire the truth? Because what if you were told things that seem compelling of an explanation but aren't actually the truth?
Yeah, no, it's a
It's
good
not that
point.
we're
And this
told
is
things,
there's
Geo.
yeah, exactly. Rufus is right. You're right. This is a whole part of philosophy called epistemology. How do we know what we know? And so I would ask you, well, if that's not how we go about finding truth, then how do we? So, for example, to something non-controversial, if we were going to try and figure out whether water is H2O, uh, I don't think that's something you can prove necessarily. I think it's a good explanation. You do all these experiments and observations, and water being made of 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen sure answers lots of questions. So that's what I'm going with for now. So do you have a better way of finding out if water is H2O, or how would you propose finding out truth in the sciences? I mean,
If I had a gas analyzer, I would zap the hell out of it.
yeah, well, that's good. So you'd look at you do experiments to see if it matches your explanation. And that's what I say, and that's what I think you have to do in all areas of science. Like, look at the different explanations, figure out if they accurately represent the real world, if they have explanatory power for predictions, all that kind of stuff. I mean, the Greeks said, "Oh, we're going to come up with an idea that is like perfect with the Platonic ideals, and we think the Earth is a sphere because the sphere is a perfect shape, and blah blah blah." And I think that's the wrong way to go about it. They lucked into the right answer, but we want to look for good explanations, not like what matches the Platonic ideals. So we do science way different than Aristotle did.
Well, you were saying like as well, like how do you go about it? I mean, the thing is, I kind of think what we're tapping into, in my viewpoint, is like actually at the core of like all of this, of like the current system, because like when I was growing up, there was a lot of like just in science and everything that you're being taught, there is this whole energy like within the whole, current mainstream system, kind of as it were with science, where there's this thing where it's like the best explanation, kind of like you're saying, and they have this whole system where they don't prove things in science and that they only give evidence for things. And by the time you're just giving evidence for things, now there could be like a subjective way that you could apply that evidence to whatever it is you're trying to explain, to where you never really get the link, like you never really plug the plug into the plug, like you never actually get the act to the actual truth. You just kind of have evidences that sway us to compile our thoughts on this as being the most likely based on, you know what I'm saying, without actually getting to the truth itself. So I think when setting it up that way, it sets up, I think on one hand, a potential for belief and faith to be a factor. And then secondly, if you don't actually know what it is, it could also allow for a lot of corruption, because now they could sway things towards a certain conclusion and get everybody like looking that way, looking towards the direction of what they're trying to point you to as thinking the evidence leads to. But if it isn't actually the truth, then just having the best explanation, like just a quick example, I mean, for like, let's say, just to end my thing here, like on like bacteria, for example. Now this is kind of coming from the mainstream idea of it, but like, there's that claim of, oh, before they knew what bacteria was, they thought it was just demons making them sick or whatever. I actually do think there could be a
or
demonic
bad
energy.
air. That's where malaria gets its name from, bad air.
Yeah, so back then, if they said some of those things, which I'm not even saying I agree or disagree, but you know what I'm getting at, this kind of idea, where, back then they would have thought, well, the best explanation is, bad air, and they thought, yeah, but they wouldn't have been what the truth is. The truth would have been that there was an actual bacteria that they weren't able to see. So that's just just to finish my thing, that's an example. They could have all thought, well, this is the best explanation, is bad air, but they could have just been dead wrong. And that's the thing with only going off the explanation of it.
Yeah, and I think you're right about all those things, that we can only get good explanations with that, doing it that way. But I would say that I think we have varying degrees of certainty about certain things. So, almost everybody would say, sure, water is H2O. But as far as black holes or dark energy or dark matter, like the more speculative stuff in cosmology that we can't really test very easily, or even gravity waves. Well, we didn't used to think they were, but now we have a little bit more evidence. So yeah, everything's on a sliding scale. But I guess I would say that I don't think anything, even water being H2O, even if it's way far on the certain side of the scale, I don't think that even counts as we know 100% as truth yet. I think that 100% proof, 100% knowledge belongs in the realms of mathematics and philosophy, logic and that type of thing. So I would even say that the scientific idea that water is H2O is as certain as it is still on that spectrum somewhere.
Well, that one definitely is. I mean, it's kind of a interesting example because, I mean, a lot of people contest that. That. They can test it. They can test it. They can't test it. They can't test it, and they contest it. They contest it. They can't test it.
Right.
Because yeah, H2O is a model, and like, I mean, I do think there's electrical bonds and charges that hold matter to where there is something to what matter is, and like the H2O idea. But yeah, I mean, and I understand when they can split the different components, but I think it's all electrostatic. It's electrostatic. I don't think it really is the model that they call it. But I mean,
what would you use as a better example
physically? Yeah.
Yeah. If I were to re-say this argument, what example would you use as kind of like a non-controversial scientific truth, so to speak?
Wait, you're using it
because yeah, I just want to say,
how do we know? All right. Well, I mean, the old water boiling. Like, we can.
Okay.
I guess that's just one that pops in my head. It is one of the most just kind of like, but we could talk about other things.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one.
The effect of weight or a lot of different things. But well, just getting to the truth. I mean, we were talking about cosmology, I suppose. So when it comes to like the best explanations, because that was kind of what it linked back to. Because yeah, it's all going to be different. Like to know that water boils, you can physically test it, and we can, control for variables that we know would affect it, like altitude and etc., and the container and the type of water. And if we have the similar altitude and water and so on, you could prove that. Like you wouldn't really have to have an explanation for it. Really, it would just be proven. Like it just.
Yeah,
No,
I like that example.
Yeah,
I'll use that example in the future.
Well, I mean, it's just one that maybe is like not like. Does anyone contest that water boils? You know what I'm saying? If we say,
You know what?
Distilled
There's
water
nothing
with this pan and this.
You could probably find somebody somewhere on the internet that contests it, sure, but yeah, that is a very easy.
I don't know. Does anyone
non-contested.
contest that water boils? I mean, for real, has there been ever a human, unless they're like schizophrenic or maybe blind? But I mean, would anyone contest that water boils when you add heat to it?
Well, I suppose people like Aristotle thousands of years ago would have said water boils and disappears, where we would say water becomes steam, or I don't know what he would say, but
let's have a water boiling contest. Let's have a water boiling contest. Shall we?
Well, linking it back to the main point though of what we were saying is just like in terms of the cosmology part is if you're saying. Because the extreme we were saying is that if NASA came out and said the Earth is flat, it's actually not a globe. You were saying, Matthew, that you would actually think that they're lying because you think it's a globe. And then the reason you were thinking it's a globe so strong is because you were saying you think the globe has the best explanations for these things. And therefore, that's what's bringing you to truth. And then you were saying, well, what are the alternatives if you don't go off the best explanation? Well, what about one thing? If you don't know what the truth is, what about just not claiming it or not having to know? Like just to be in the unknown until you know what the truth is. Instead of making a leap on something that you may have a feeling that it has the best explanations, but if you don't know for sure, why just use the best explanations and make a leap? Because you could be, acquiring the wrong information that way. Why not just be like, I don't know yet, or I don't know that yet. I have these explanations, I have these evidences, but I don't know yet. That's kind of to Matthew.
Yeah, you know what? I do think that is a valid stance to take. It's more kind of the philosophical skeptic position, and in cases where it doesn't really matter, that's fine. I like having explanations, and for me, I'm going to just go with the best explanation so far. And then there are some people who are like, well, we want to engineer things. We want to engineer GPS and satellite TV and that type of stuff, so that they kind of have to pick something. They have to pick a model in order to engineer things. But for the normal person, I think you might be right. You could just sort of like withhold judgment if you don't know.
What about all the people who lay undersea cable? What about all those people?
Yeah, they would have to know the accurate distances between distant cities over the ocean. So
It's weird that the undersea cables, their official map, they use a flat Earth map. Strange, huh?
I don't think they do.
All right, this is kind of jumping.
No, I said said the trigger word satellites, and he brought the trigger. The trigger answer is undersea cables.
I'm gonna be on your ass, man.
Well, on the point. Well, okay. Well, did you want to say something else on that?
No, I know Matthew. Matthew knows me well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right. Well, no, I just So I mean, Matthew, like, okay, but do they ever have to take leaps in things that matter? Like for engineering, for example, like I don't think they have to take any leaps. Like when they design an airplane and they know, the Bernoulli's principle and the airflow, and I mean, they don't. There's no really like theoretics involved in engineering. Well, there could be in some ways, but I mean, in terms of like the raw engineering of it. So, for like, what did you mean by they have to take a leap? Because like, in what way? Like, for example, like dark matter kind of thing. Well, if they just say they don't know, or if they have dark matter, they're not really, there's nothing that they're necessarily using it for to engineer things. Anyways, you kind of see what I'm saying? Like where did they?
Yeah.
Like where did they? Okay, if they know how something works, they can engineer and they can do stuff like chemistry. They know what this chemical does, that chemical does. I guess what I'm saying is that is there ever a time where they just have to take a leap and just use the best explanation to actually engineer anything to where, or do anything to where they could have just said they don't know? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I suppose at the edges of engineering, like when they're making new things, when you're first using composites in airplane airframes instead of aluminum or something like that. So I would say that as engineering progresses at the front edge, the bleeding edge of that, they're often taking leaps and trying things out and testing things. But in the real world, if you're building a 737, you probably already know all the stuff and you can engineer it. You know, you've done it 1,000 times before, so you know what you're doing. So I think that's a great question. That yeah, that does happen some places, but not in sort of normal manufacturing, maybe.
All right, well, bringing it full circle to cosmology stuff, like, eclipses or all of these other things, like the things you were saying, the best explanations, like you were saying for the seasons, for example, is there any reason for you, like, okay, if they have the explanation of the globe, the tilting, for example, as to the cause of the seasons, and your claim is that that's the best explanation, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, now, if the truth was that the sun is more local and it's getting further and closer, if that was what the actual truth is and it's not the tilt, is there any benefit you're getting for yourself that believing that it's the tilt? If it isn't anything that's practical for like engineering or something that has to get you to work tomorrow or anything to that degree, like is there any reason for you to have to use that as the best explanation and believe it? You know what I'm saying? Like it.
Yeah, I
Whereas if
do.
you
Uh-huh.
don't 100% know, and you just said I don't know 100% what causes seasons. Yeah, this is the best explanation, but I'm just going to be neutral. Is there any benefit you're getting by going with the best explanation, even if you don't know 100% that is the right one?
Yeah, as a real person, the answer is no. I drive to work, I teach my classes, I go out to eat with friends, all the same, whether it's the tilt of the season that makes it cold or whether it's the sun being farther away. So as far as practical things, um, in my real life, it doesn't make a difference to me personally.
Well, but does it make a difference? Do you want to have like a worldview though, and have like something that you think the Earth is, to where you don't want to just be like, you want to have some explanation? Because you're saying,
Yeah, I
yeah,
want
it
to be
doesn't help
right.
you in a practical way, but does it help you in any other spiritual or emotional way?
No, not in those ways, but I would say that I like being right in sort of personal preference. I'm curious about the world and how things work. And the problem with this idea that the sun is going in different circles closer and farther is that although you can kind of manufacture a way that might work on a flat Earth, it fixes seasons but breaks other things. Like, oh, now suddenly we have a question of how come the sun is the same exact angular size all year long, pretty much. And then, so it's kind of like trying to fit a rug that's too small in a room. You can move it over into the corner and it fits this corner just right, but oh look, you're missing that side. So then you go run over there and try to fix that, and then you're missing the other sides. I feel like that's what these ad hoc explanations for flat Earth end up doing. Whereas with globe Earth, we have a system that explains seasons and the constant size of the sun and sunsets and the moon phases and eclipses all at once. And so that's why I think of it as still the best explanation when you consider all the evidence together.
All right. Well, I mean, I hear you. I could kind of flip it the other way, and because that was obviously you are saying it's not like an attack, but it's somewhat of your bias. Like you're saying that's the best one because there's another perspective that could say that the globe has all kinds of problems with it in terms of
Right,
it,
of course.
and all of the physics involved and gas pressure and when you have a massive vacuum and then you have a sphere that we all have like like you can't replicate in physics like a sphere in a vacuum that would have like a 15 psi
We can
field
model
around
that.
it, like
Yeah.
an atmosphere, as it were, the way they
You're saying we
describe it,
can't model that here?
like in a vacuum. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, well, whatever. We could go into all those details. I was just saying the main point to Matthew, which is just that I hear what he's saying, but there obviously is a way that could be seen the other way, that the globe actually is the one that is not, that has all kinds of issues. However, yeah, I mean,
Yes,
I don't
'cause
know
let
that
me
anyone
respond to that.
has. Yeah, but what the actual Earth is in terms of its extremities is a pretty huge question, even with the planar and without millions and billions of dollars to actually do all the tests we need to do. I understand that people that do have millions and billions have already given the globe option. And so to even combat that, you'd have to have millions and billions and a research team over many years to get all of the information that would be needed to actually counteract or have like a full kind of replacement, as it were.
I
Yeah,
don't
so
think it's nearly that. I don't think it's nearly that complicated because the data is there. We have made a variety of measurements from geologic surveys to seismological surveys to satellite imaging. You have the data available to you. It's simply a matter of if you do not think the Earth is a sphere, then you need to be able to explain all of that data that has already been taken in the context of a flat Earth.
Yeah, well, I think when it comes to data streams like that, I'd probably start with some skepticism of where those data streams are coming from to all of that level. But I know you're saying maybe in a general broad sense, so like we'd have to maybe, unpack whichever region or area, but like in terms of like the satellite system, for example, I mean, I know that you can communicate with objects up there, but at the same time, there's like a boundary in which it seems like the governmental systems are the ones that really have control over what gets launched up there and the positioning, and then we don't really have like a full way of confirming the data stream and where it's truly coming from. Like sometimes you can get signals from positions in the sky, but sorry, I know it's kind of going on a side thing. I guess I'm just my main response, I guess, is it depends on like what data are you referring to, and then because if there is a massive deception going on, then it would make sense that they would have a very thorough compartmentalized system of streaming the data that they want to be giving to the population versus what the actual truth is. Like that would be like a gateway in which. But I mean, if data is taken by independent people, then that's different. And so on. So it depends on
Okay,
like.
so let me respond to just the big picture thing here. I said the reason I think the Earth is a globe is because it's the best explanation for all these observations, and it sounds like you're saying that from your perspective, flat Earth is the best explanation, and I think that that's the right direction to go if you're going to try and show that flat Earth is true. But I think you're a rarity in that, whereas most people in the flat Earth world, or in this whole argument, instead of offering good explanations that counter the globe's explanations, it seems like the main project that they're involved in is trying to shoot down the explanations of the globe and show why each one by one, piece by piece, doesn't work in their minds. And that's fine. It just seems to be sort of a negative project rather than a positive project. I think the best way to show that the Earth is flat would be to come up with better explanations than the globe and show how they have a better predictive power and better matching the observations. Now, you mentioned that we can't trust some of the observations. That's fine. How about what if we just stick to the basic common observations like sunsets and moon phases and seasons and eclipses and star rotations and all those kinds of things? If you stick to the commonly known observations, come up with a better explanation, then I'll look at it.
Perfectly
All
said.
right. Well, go ahead.
I was just saying I agree with that completely, particularly the part where I do not see a concerted effort on the flat Earth side to create a positive argument. It's simply about tearing down what has already been established. It isn't about adding to knowledge. It isn't about putting forth a new truth. It's simply the refutation of the truth that already exists. And I find that to be a rather pessimistic worldview. Shouldn't we be building things? Shouldn't we be, when we try to seek truth, should we not be attempting to build structures rather than tear down existing ones?
Well, depends on what the foundation's built on, right? If it's a faulty foundation, you're not going to build anything meaningful because it's not going to last.
Yeah, but the answer is to come up with a new foundation. Like when we came up with a new
I agree.
germ theory, it wasn't like wasn't just
Same time, you didn't get there by believing in the original, right? You had to question the original even to
right. No, that's
do you
right. You
want
had
to
to
take on
question the
that
original.
task?
Yep.
You know, so there's like that aspect of it.
Right.
But I
No,
see
that's
what you
true.
guys are
That's
saying.
true.
Yeah, but I
Questioning
think
is
one
fine.
thing I just wanted to, well, if
Go
I could
ahead.
respond real briefly, I just
Yeah,
Matthew,
go
you
ahead.
were saying that I said that the quote unquote flat Earth explanations are the best one, and then you kind of were that was part of your point. I'm not trying to be like dramatic, but that kind of was a straw man because I never technically said that. Because
Oh,
I
okay.
think, I
Yeah,
mean,
sorry.
the phrase of best explanation to me is pretty subjective. Like if I said, oh, the best music is, reggae, well, that's obviously subjective. I mean, if I think it's the best, which by the way, I'm not necessarily saying that. I do love reggae, but so the best is kind of a subjective thing, the best explanation. Like, for example, like Whitsitt was they were going all deep on the plasma and superfluid and electrostatic theory, in terms of those ideas and a replacement for dark matter. Like, if somebody thought Whitsitt's one was better or dark matter was better, if neither of them know for sure or have direct, proof or evidence, as it were, of it yet, or maybe not enough of that on either side, then, the best would just be like subjective. Somebody might pick this team, somebody might pick that team. Anyways, I know it's kind of going back a little bit and what from that part from before, but I just wanted to respond to that because, I mean, the thing is, like, flat Earth is like that phrase that's been obviously connected to that Gleason's map and so on. That doesn't mean that that's what the Earth is either. Like the Earth could be planar and stationary, but the term flat Earth and that concept of it, and then some of the conceptions people have, they may not have the correct one. And then I guess just lastly, I'll pass the mic back to Professor Parks if you were going to jump in. But to kind of link it, I want to say those things, and but then also, in terms of the situation, like I think it's worth considering that from the perspective that we have been lied to about what the Earth is, and it's not the sphere, then it would be a huge effort to figure out why the sphere is wrong. But then to know what the Earth is, again, I think it takes millions of dollars, if not hundreds of millions, to really do everything that would be needed. All of the testing and things that are needed. So it would make sense that as a human race, if we've been lied to this degree, from the perspective that that's the case, that those of us, unless you have access to massive funding, it would make sense that there wouldn't be a complete replacement and all of the answers just instantly ready. You know what I'm saying? And that it would almost be like, recovering from a haze of sorts, to figure out what the Earth actually is, or like recovering what the Earth is from the deception. It just would make sense that if the folks are correct that they're saying it's planar and stationary, that they would have all of the answers and all of the replacements right away. Like it would take a lot of time. I mean, yeah, like I said, I mean, $100 million with a research team for 5 years, that would certainly put things forward, move things forward.
So, you say that the best explanation is subjective, and this was an issue, a point of contention that I had with Austin, is that when I say, and I think what Matthew is saying, the best explanation for is that we have quantitative data. We have the observations that we've taken, and the model has predictive power. It tells us numerically, quantitatively, when things set, when things move, how fast they move. And then we can compare that to the observations that we take. And when those two numbers agree within the error of the observations, that's when we say this is the best explanation. So it's not a subjective metric by any stretch of the imagination. Now, when it comes to the dark matter question, whether or not electrostatics or electromagnetics or superfluids could in fact explain the dark matter problem, the issue there is, again, it comes back to whatever theory that you're coming, or whatever hypothesis that you put forward needs to have predictive power. It needs to be able to demonstrate, okay, if the galaxy is a superfluid, these are the quantitative predictions we can make and test or observe for. Now, to your point of needing to have all the answers and all that, I don't think that anyone on the globe side is saying that you need to have all of the answers. And in fact, that's one of the criticisms I have about the flat Earth side, because they seem to think that we need to have all the answers or none of our answers are correct. So we're not expecting you, at least I'm not expecting you, to have any kind to have answers to all questions. What I'm hoping for is some kind of predictive model. And again, when I say predictive, I mean it'll tell me specifically the sun will be in X location at Y time. that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, to respond to what you said there, when you're saying the best explanation, if it is based on rigorous data and actual results and things, I do hear you on that. That's not subjective. I agree. I think we were talking a little bit about, well, earlier, some of the other things like about, the explanation for, whether it's eclipses or other types of phenomenon like sky phenomenon, or just like why we're on a sphere and so on, which some of those might be more, or could be argued to be more on this side of subjective. But yeah, if you're talking about like, really rigorous data or measurements or certain things, of course, that is not subjective, if it's, trustworthy and solid, and it depends on in what category we're talking, obviously. But yeah, I do hear you on that and the predictability. The thing is, we'd have to get into which predictions you're referring to. I do know what you mean about sunsets and all that, but I mean, I think it's worth considering that. I know it does take a lot to consider, but if there is a deception going on to where the Earth isn't actually a sphere, then there would already be a team, let's say, or a group or some entities, don't have to go the whole layer of some kind of New World Order cabal thing, but there would have to be some group that is already interfacing between how we interact with the Earth and what the Earth is. So in terms of the GPS systems, in terms of the sky, in terms of the map layout, and how we get from point A to point B, like airplanes and all of that. So yeah, I mean, with that, if that's in the picture, then, basically it would be that the true map of the Earth is what is really hidden from us, to a degree to where like how the sky exactly maps with the true Earth, meaning that there would have to be some way in which, we can only go to a certain limit of what we can test and verify. And then those kind of behind the curtain, as it were, have already been able to orchestrate the modifications and the compartmentalization of what amount of the Earth we can access, and then the data that we're given, and then how that kind of matches together to where there would have to be a way in which, because yeah, when you're talking about a model, like it would be, it's like the idea that the map is not the territory. So whatever map they may be giving us may not actually be the territory. If we knew the actual territory independently ourselves and could measure all these distances and see where the discrepancies would be, then perhaps we could like map the Earth ourselves and then map the sky to the Earth ourselves. And then if we can confirm the sky is planar through angles to stars, all kinds of components with that data, then we would start to have like a correct map of the ground and the sky. And if you have that, you're getting pretty close to a model of what this whole realm is, ground and sky. It's pretty much all it is. It's ground and sky, and some air in between. So yeah, that's what would be needed to have a model. And like I said before, with the financial side, I mean, to have $10-20 million, for example, to put a whole team together to do that is what would then be needed to even give you that part of the model, when the ground and sky, to have the predictability of the sunsets and sunrises and moonrises, and in terms of being able to say, here's the actual map and here's how the sky actually maps to it. Whereas right now we have a limited access to only certain portions of the Earth, and we have to depend heavily on data from others, and it gets into that whole part of it.
Do you have flight route times, Gio? Flight times between major cities?
I've taken some flights. I've taken quite a few flights in my life, and I've seen the other data that's given, and I've talked to others that have taken flights, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Can you try to put together the continents like that?
Well, I was kind of responding to Dr. Parks. I mean, if we want to go into that, we could shift to that. But you're talking about for maps.
I think that's you're
gonna need a map, right?
Yeah, I think what he's saying is, what Rufi's saying is on point. Is you need observations to create a predictive model. So he's offering why not flight times, unless you think that whoever is performing the deception is altering that data before we can get our hands on it.
Right. No,
I mean, with flight times, you can fly faster and slower, right? I do get that point. But has, for example, GPS ever failed you on Earth and showed you, for example, a different distance?
That maps in is different than the local grid systems, And then, like I'm saying, there are ways in which they can actually grid the Earth, the actual planar Earth, but put it into a computer model system that uses it within the GPS system. Like it's locating you on the network, and they can be using the actual planar coordinates and then giving you the actual signal that correlates with the model that they're giving with the coordinate systems.
I don't even
I'm not greatly contesting like distances between like local cities and things, but they also could be off by a certain degree as well. That because you can never really travel a perfectly straight line. You have elevation to deal with as well, if you were going to really measure it to get exact, and the difference between the globe and the flat on like grand large distances versus just going to your local, 3 miles down the road.
I mean,
I
with
have a. Oh, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say, we don't even just kind of going back to the flight times. You really don't even need GPS for this. If you're worried about whether or not flights are irregular in terms of their speed, just take a whole bunch of them to get a record of flight times, and then average that together. That's going to give you large scale distances. From that, you should be able to put together some kind of rudimentary map, and I have yet to see that done on the flat Earth.
Well,
with
let me say
with a planar model. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing with plane flights, one component, what about like how they're actually tracking along the ground when it comes to the like left and right, basically, not necessarily altitude, but the horizontal, in terms of the actual path that they're flying along the ground? Like, what do you think of that being a factor? Like, meaning instead of actually flying in a straight line, they're actually making a slight like right to left curve or left to right curve on the actual ground, especially for the long distance, like the really long distance ones across the ocean.
I would, yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I think for long distances, any sort of left-right motion is basically going to be a small effect in terms of the straight line motion. Basically, I think they go in a straight line far more than they go in a deviated path. But that could go into any kind of error. You can say that we believe the continents are in this orientation, plus or minus 100 miles or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's also, yeah. No, the left to right, I know what you're saying. Like, how much would that actually even be able to account for? So I do hear you on that, in terms of the difference. But I mean, the difference between planar and spherical, I mean, we've crunched the numbers. I mean, you probably know them generally as well. In terms of, it depends on the distance, obviously, but the difference is, it just seems like it really would come into play over the grand distances, like across the oceans. Whereas it seems like, just flying from LA to New York, is not the same as flying like across the entire ocean. So yeah, and then of course you have like the jet streams as well as a factor. But I mean, I do hear you. Like, I do agree that there would have to be a pretty significant deception going on, at least to some level, where there'd have to be like a compartmentalized component of the aircraft system in the whole world, meaning that there would have to be kind of a point at which, it shifts to like, the autopilot, in terms of like the mass distances over the seas and like those actual planes that are doing that.
Booked a flight today, Heathrow to JFK, headed west-southwest, cause there ain't no better way. Gonna find that old Coriolis, they say she's hidden in the winds, but that just can't be if we rotate east, tangential gradient. Hidden in the winds, Coriolis must be hidden in the winds, but the Earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been, and we never could land safely with that tangential gradient. We all know every pilot treats the Earth as motionless, so to think it must be moving is just insane, you must confess. But please don't get offended if this song makes too much sense. Just thank God that landing's easy with no tangential gradient in the winds. They said she'd just be hidden in the winds, but the Earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been, and we never could land safely with that tangential gradient. So here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, Don't worry about rotation, cause we ain't on no damn globe. So here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, don't worry about rotation, cause we ain't on no damn globe. Hidden in the winds, Coriolis just ain't hidden in these winds. And the earth ain't moving faster with the further south we go. So thank God we won't be crashing when those wheels hit down below. Hidden in the winds, there ain't no Coriolis hidden in the winds. And thank God it's stationary, or we never safely land on a surface that is moving with a tangential gradient. Yes, here's a lesson for who's listening. It's dynamics that are true. No kinematic concept could ever substitute. So the next time you are flying, no matter where you go, don't worry about rotation, cause we ain't on no damn globe. Hidden in the winds, Coriolis just ain't hidden in these winds. And their earth ain't moving faster with the further south we've been. And thank God we won't be crashing when we touch down at the end. And thank the Lord, Earth is stationary, or we never safely land on a surface that is moving. There's no tangential gradient.